Thank you so much. Just want to double check everybody can hear me okay? Got a thumbs up? Thank you, Ray. And so you've joined me here today for a webinar on how to unfuck your head and how to stop self-sabotaging and actually start getting shit done. And I actually just want to completely cut to the chase here because if you've ever said to yourself, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, or I know what to do and I just don't do it, then this webinar today is 100 trillion thousand% for you. And for today's webinar, which is aptly titled Unfuck Your Head, this is going to be a no fluff, full throttle brain reboot that you probably didn't even realize that you needed. Because let's be very honest, you don't actually probably have a knowledge problem. What you probably have is a follow-through problem, You probably already know how to drink more water. Yeah, you're coming in for your check-ins with me if you're a client of mine going, yeah, I know what I'm supposed to do. You go for a walk, you get to bed earlier, you stop scrolling, maybe you eat a single vegetable, or maybe you've even just started that project that's been collecting dust, I don't know, on your Google Drive since 2017. But knowing and doing, guys, is 100% not the same bloody thing, right? And if it was that simple, well, we'd all be walking around super hydrated, organized, thriving instead of running on caffeine and running on guilt and procrastination hangovers. But I don't want you to worry because it's not all doom and gloom. Today is not one of those wishy-washy, just love yourself more kind of chats. And you're not going to be told to write affirmations in glitter pens. I know that some of you want to do that. And I'm not going to tell you to journal about your inner fucking goddess or manifest your dream life by visualizing yourself on a yacht with Oprah. Okay. No, we're definitely going to go a lot deeper than that. The kind of like grab your own snorkel, get your flippers out, because we are actually going to be diving into your neural pathways kind of level deep. And we're going to be talking about why your brain keeps hitting that self-destruct button every single time that you're making progress. And you probably know what I'm talking about. If you're in here, that's probably you. We're going to talk about why you ghost your own goals. And we're also going to talk about why you continuously sabotage your own success with perfectionism and people pleasing and that tiny little voice that sits on your shoulder that says, hey, look, bitch, you're probably going to fail anyway, so why bother, okay? So today is all about understanding what's going on underneath that hood of your life, that messy wiring between your dopamine and your emotions and your identity, because until you get your head sorted, no fucking habit and no plan or any productivity hacks are actually going to stick. So by the end of today's webinar, you actually know how to get unstuck rather, and exactly why that you're in that perpetual stuck cycle. And more importantly, we're going to learn how to break it for good. So I want you to buckle up. And if you do have a pen and paper handy or some sort of note-taking mechanism, I do suggest to get that. If you're like me, you have lots of random books scattered around your quote-unquote office space, wherever that is for you in your kitchen. But maybe it's in your car. I really want you to start to take your brain off autopilot today and really just start running the show again. So we're going to be diving into a mental makeover that your inner critic basically never saw coming. And to begin with, we're just going to talk about your programming right now, because the truth is that you're not lazy and you're not unmotivated and you're not broken. And you're probably not lacking discipline or willpower or grit even. You're probably not a failure for falling off the track, even though you might think you are. And you're definitely not a failure for losing momentum or forgetting what day it is halfway through your fucking morning coffee, like me, because I'm on my second coffee. But what you are probably, more often than not, is just running on some sort of outdated programming. And this is old mental software that was probably installed decades ago, written by some childhood conditioning and reinforced by fear and occasionally patched by panic. Something like, really, really old Windows, right? With that funny Windows music. Do they still have that? They still have Windows? I don't know. I'm on a Mac. Anyway, your brain, bless its cotton socks, right? It's doing everything it can to completely protect you. And that's literally the job of your brain. But the problem, right, Your brain, it doesn't give a shit about your goals, right? All your brain cares about is your survival, okay? Your brain is 100% not interested in your six-pack dreams, your morning routine, or even your side hustle, because what it's doing is scanning the horizon 24/7, 365, looking for anything in your life that feels risky, uncertain, or different. All right, so think about that. And even if that risk, right, is just you finally stepping into the life that you actually want, right? Sound familiar? Okay, so having a cracker of a day, ticking all the boxes, smashing your to-do list. Feels like maybe, just maybe, you've actually got your shit together, and then boom, right? You find yourself elbow deep in a fucking packet of Tim Tams. It never runs out. Halfway through a Netflix series you didn't even like that much, telling yourself you're going to start again on Monday, right? And then what happens is we cue the guilt, we cue the shame, and we cue the internal monologue of doom. And it's these sorts of things that our brain starts saying, why do I always do this? You know, why can't I just stay consistent? And what is wrong with me? That is the big one. I hear it all the time, right? But here's the thing, guys. There is nothing wrong with you. And you didn't fail, right? Your brain was just hijacked by the wheel, right? You just had your brain grab the wheel and completely take over. Your subconscious, it stepped in like a really overprotective helicopter parent waiting at the front of school at like 1 hour before school finishes and quietly whispering that, hey, this is unfamiliar, and let's go back to what we actually know. Because to your brain, familiar equals safe, okay? And even if quote unquote safe is some sort of chaotic self-sabotaging, or maybe it's completely out of alignment with your goals, it's still what we call safe. And that's its emotional home. And this is exactly why you can crave change with every single fiber of your entire being and then still find yourself doing the exact opposite, okay? Your nervous system, it doesn't care that future you wants better habits. All it actually cares about is that current you doesn't feel threatened. So I hope that that makes sense. And so what happens as a consequence of this, it'll throw distractions and cravings and resistance all your way to keep you cocooned in whatever is comfortable, even if that actual comfort is the very thing that's holding you back. And that, if that makes some sense to you, is what we're actually here to rewire in this webinar. So I'm going to throw you a truth bomb that most coaches won't drop because it actually doesn't sell fancy planners or detox teas and stupid shit that doesn't work, okay? Willpower is a really shitty strategy. And motivation, similarly, is actually a myth. And your inner critic, yeah, that one inside that gives you all of those little pep talks, well, she's a lying little shit, okay? But seriously, that voice in your head that tells you that you're not doing enough and that you're not fit enough and you're not smart enough and you're pretty enough, she is not your coach. She is your caution sign, okay? And that person inside you, right? It's just your nervous system dressed up as a mean girl trying to keep you safe by keeping you small. So I'm going to share a little story with you, just a quick one, because I tend to go on side quests a lot, but I won't, I promise. But years ago, right, I was living in a body that I didn't recognize. I was living in a life that I didn't love, and I was running a business that looked like an absolute dream from the outside. Multi-million dollars turnover I was doing in my business that I'd started, right? I was there for years. I had staff. I had events. I had bougie handbags. I had photos that made it look like I had it all together, right? But behind that highlight reel, okay, was absolute chaos. I was burnt out. I was bossy. And I was actually completely exhausted. I was running on caffeine, more than what I'm drinking today. I was running on cortisol, and I had massive control issues. And I'd be all smiles and hustles in public, yeah, but in private, I would actually crash. Now, my brain was stuck in survival mode, that really all too familiar hamster wheel of, you know, go hard, do more, prove your worth, okay? Hustle, 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 grind, 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 work, work, work. Okay, I'd say yes to everyone else because I actually thought that that made me valuable. And then I would binge to cope. And then I'd berate myself for being weak. And then I would swear that I'd start again Monday, right? Every single week. Now, this might sound familiar to you, right? This is classic self-sabotage. All right. Now, it wasn't because I didn't know better. It's actually because my subconscious was running the entire show of my life, right? It was clinging to old stories about who I had to be to feel safe, successful, or even seen. And I was trapped in my own pattern of over-functioning and undernourishing, both physically and emotionally. But, right, there is a but, a capital B. I actually learned how to rewrite the script. I actually learned how to call out my subconscious handbrake habits. Okay, and these were the ones that looked productive on the surface, but were actually keeping me very, very stuck. Okay, I actually learned to recognize the difference between the thought of I'm lazy and the thought of my nervous system is overloaded. And I actually, more importantly, I learned to stop trying to fix myself and start understanding myself. And so that, guys, is exactly what this is about today. Now, today, I'm not going to give you another fucking routine or a rule book or some sort of rah-rah pep talk. I'm going to be giving you a manual for your mind. I'm going to be giving you the tools to understand why you keep doing what you do not want to do and how to finally start doing what actually matters. And you're going to walk away with three main things, right? Number one, how your brain is wired to keep you safe, not successful. Number two, how sneaky sabotage cycles actually keep you spinning in circles. And number three, how to finally start showing up for the actual life that you want without burning out, numbing out, or losing yourself in the process. Now, what we're not going to be doing today is teaching you how to hustle harder. There's heaps of that shit all over the internet, right? Okay, this is about working with your brain, not against it. And it's about becoming the type of person who follows through because it actually feels aligned and it doesn't feel forced. So if you're ready to stop white knuckling your way through change and finally start to learn how to drive your brain instead of being dragged by it, well, it's time to unfuck your head. Okay. So I'm going to give you a couple of ideas of what self-sabotage actually looks like. Do you like my AI pictures here on the screen? That's not a real person, by the way. No human faces were injured in the making of that image, but I'm going to break it down for you. Okay. So I don't want you to worry. Okay. You're not the only person who's been stuck on the self-sabotage merry-go-round from hell, but we're going to run through a couple of these steps. So step one in our self-sabotage cycle is that you set a goal, right? This is what we always do. You set a goal, you're inspired. You bloody had your, oh my God, this time it's different moment, okay? You know that moment that you had, you're like, no, it's going to be different, okay? You've downloaded the planner, right? You've made that fucking Pinterest board, and maybe you've even bought a brand new water bottle, some fucking glitzy water bottle or some activewear that actually makes you feel like some sort of main character, right? Okay. And you're probably sitting there going, oh yeah, I know this one. Okay. And then step two, right, is that we take action, right? So you're on fire. I mean, you're meal prepping, you're meditating, and maybe you're smashing your to-do list like a boss. And then you've somehow convinced yourself that you've finally cracked the code, right? And you can feel that momentum building. Now, step three, it actually starts working, right? You're seeing results. The scales are moving in the right direction. Your inbox is under control. Your energy's up. You're sleeping better. And then life's starting to feel, good, right? Predictable. Maybe a little bit easy, okay? Step four. Then, out of absolutely nowhere, you begin to fucking panic, okay? You flake out, self-sabotage, or accidentally forget to keep going, right? You tell yourself you're just tired, you're just busy, overwhelmed, or that maybe you'll just get back on track soon. But deep down, really deep down inside the depths of your soul, you know that you've actually hit that invisible wall. And then we move to step five. You spiral, okay? And this is where we cue the guilt and the shame and the good old, oh, what's wrong with me soundtrack. You know that one? Okay? And this is where you punish yourself and you overthink every single choice. And you fucking swear that next Monday will be the fresh start that finally sticks once and for all. But it doesn't. Because, guys, that's not laziness or inconsistency or lack of discipline. That's your brain doing exactly what it's wired to do. Because if you understand, success, it doesn't just challenge a schedule, right? It actually challenges your entire fucking identity. And that's the big thing that most people miss, right? Yeah. It's not your intelligence holding you back. It's not your capabilities, because you're smart, right? You're capable. You've done really fucking hard shit before, right? It's your sense of self. And when you start to change, even if it's a positive change in the right direction, right? Your brain, it gets this little twitchy thing going on. And it's like, hold up, hold on. Who are we now, right? Are you the person? Are you the person? Are you the person? No to people. And yes, yourself. That doesn't feel safe. That's not who we've been. And so, guys, your subconscious, it freaks the fuck out and it throws distractions at you and it floods you with things like doubt. And then it sends you sprinting back to the version of yourself it recognizes, that one that feels familiar. And that's why you can want something so fucking badly it hurts and yet still find yourself avoiding it. Because change isn't just about what you do, it's about who you believe you actually are. And until you understand that, you'll keep mistaking sabotage for failure when it's really just your brain trying to keep you safe. But, okay, please don't worry. Please do not tap out of this webinar at this point, because we're about to call that crap out and actually start rewriting the code, okay? Now, your brain is basically a 3-year-old in a fucking power suit, right? Now, if it was me, I'd be wearing a fluoro yellow power suit. But, okay, your brain, it's loud, it's impulsive, it's irrational, it's emotional, it's stubborn as hell, but it also genuinely thinks that it's actually in charge of your life. And your brain wants routine and familiarity and certainty, even if that normal looks like chaos or burnout or the same self-defeating cycle on repeat. Your brain will cling to it like a fucking toddler with a toy that it doesn't even like anymore because it's familiar, okay? And why is this? Because, as I said, chaos, feels safer than the calm that you don't. And to your brain, safe, it always beats happy. So even when you consciously want change, i.e. to feel lighter, calmer, more confident, your subconscious is still whispering to you, you know what? This new thing feels really risky, okay? So let's just stay in our comfort zone of overthinking and stress eating and pretending we're fine. Remember, it's not your fault. It's your programming. See, I want you to understand about your subconscious, right? Because it runs in a belief system that was mostly installed before you even hit puberty. And from the ages of 0 to 7, your brain is basically one big recording device. Now, I'm older-ish, and back when I was a kid, I used to use little tapes. Some of you are probably older than me. You can probably remember what that was like, but that is your brain recording things off the radio, okay? But between the ages of 0 to 7, you absorbed every single thing around you, right? The tone of your parents' voices, how they reacted to stress, what your teachers praised or punished you over, and essentially how love and approval were earned. And those tiny, seemingly insignificant, invisible moments actually became that mental operating system that you still run today, okay? And most of us are walking around as fully grown fucking adults with a 5-year-old belief system driving the bus, okay? And we have beliefs that might sound like this. I have to be perfect to be loved. Resting is lazy. Hello. That's my old belief, right? Success makes people hate you, i.e. tall poppy. If I'm visible, I'll be rejected. If I don't control everything, everything will fall apart. Total mum guilt shit going on there, right? Okay? Might sound familiar, but these aren't conscious thoughts. These are coded behaviors. And the absolutely wild thing is that your brain will twist itself into knots to make sure that your current reality matches those old beliefs. Because to your subconscious, consistency equals safety. So if you grew up, like I did, equating achievement with love, you'll just keep overworking yourself. If you learned that emotional expression led to conflict, you'll continue to bottle things up. And if you were taught that failure means shame, well, unfortunately, you'll avoid risk, even if that risk could actually change your life for the best. And you're not unmotivated or unproductive or broken. You're just running a dodgy script that was written absolutely decades ago. But here's the really good news. that script is editable. Okay, you can rewrite it. You can install new code that serves you instead of sabotaging you. And once you understand how to catch those old patterns in action, you can literally rewire your brain to see progress as safe instead of scary. Okay? And so we're going to stop letting our inner 3-year-old run the fucking show and teach our adult brain how to take the wheel. Because the truth is, you don't need a new personality. You just actually need a new program. Okay. So we're going to talk about our inner critic as well now. And you probably know who I mean. It's that voice inside your head, as I said, that's like a mean girl, right? It's almost like a mean girl remix, meeting a toxic ex and having a love child, okay? And this is the stuff that it says. It's like, you'll never stick to it. Everyone else is doing better than you. Don't bother, you always fail. Who do you think you are? Okay, and that's your inner critic, okay? Relentless, dramatic, weirdly persuasive, okay? But here's the thing, right? She's actually not trying to ruin your life. She's trying to protect you. And that voice is a collection of echoes, a sum of every single moment that you learnt, okay, that being yourself came with, okay, and it came with conditions. And this is the voice of every single teacher who told you to sit down and stop fucking talking, every parent who said, don't be silly, every friend who mocked your dream, every single boss that you've ever had in your entire life who made you doubt your worth. Every time you were made to feel like you were too much or too loud or too opinionated or too bright or too fucking bold or too ambitious. This is the story of my life, okay? And you know what? This critic, she's not evil. She's just scared. And her only job, okay, the one that she's actually been overachieving at for years on end is actually to keep you small and safe, okay? She's like this little internal security guard at the front of the nightclub, right? And she'll slam the door the moment you try and step outside. You're like, nope, you're too risky. You might fucking embarrass yourself, right? And she doesn't give a shit if you're unfulfilled. She just wants you to be protected. But here's the thing, right? Safety and sabotage can look identical when your brain's been programmed to equate discomfort with danger, as we've talked about before. And your inner critic genuinely believes that she's helping you by talking you out of progress, okay? And she's like the antivirus software that you have to keep fucking updating. It's really outdated. She's like that, and it's flagging every single new opportunity in your life as basically a threat, okay? Now, she doesn't get to drive that bus anymore after today. She can come for the ride, but she's going to have to take the back seat. She can knit quietly. She can fucking crochet. I don't know if you crochet. And she can actually keep her opinions to herself. But we're going to put a new voice in charge of you, right? Okay, and this is your coach voice. And this voice says some different things. This voice says things like, it's actually okay to start small. It's going to say things like, you know what, progress over perfection. Might even say, you know what, this is new, not wrong. Might say, you can actually do uncomfortable things. And potentially, it'll tell you that setbacks are freedom and not failure. Now, your coach voice, it's not loud, it's not flashy. You know what? It's calm and it's grounded and it's kind. And it doesn't yell, it reassures. And it actually knows that consistency is born from compassion, not criticism. And the really important part of this, guys, is that the more you listen to this new voice, this coach voice, the quieter that really mean voice gets. Because your brain, with neuroplasticity, it literally rewires itself based on repetition, right? And you'll hear me time and time again. If you are working with me, you'll hear me say, do less more often. Okay? Simplify to amplify. Progress over perfection. Every time you respond with grace instead of guilt, you are teaching your subconscious, okay? And you're saying, hey, you know what? It's actually safe to be kind to myself. So I want you to promise that from today, that's going to be your mission, to make your coach voice louder than your inner critic voice, and to stop letting fear run the show and actually start letting courage take the mic. Now, you don't need to silence the mean girl voice completely. You just really need to stop taking her advice because she's not the boss anymore, right? Like you are. Now, you actually can't outperform your identity. Okay? Fullstop.com, right? You can have the fucking planners and the checklists and the apps and the books and the accountability buddies. You can have all of the accountability buddies in the world. But if deep down you still believe that you're a lazy, inconsistent bitch or a quitter, no habit tracker in the world is going to save you, okay? Because you got to remember, your actions will always fight to stay in alignment with what you believe to be true about yourself, okay? I'm going to repeat that. Your actions, the things that you do, will always fight to stay in alignment with what you believe to be true about yourself, okay? You might temporarily push and force and bulldoze your way into progress, right? But if your self-image doesn't change, well, you'll eventually self-correct back to the old version of you that feels familiar. Very, very important to realize, okay? Now, as I said, it's kind of like trying to run new software on an old operating system, and that code, it crashes. So I'm going to give you a new formula, and I want you to write this down because it's an absolute game changer. Identity, and you can do an arrow because it leads to belief, which leads to behavior, which leads to results. So you have identity, arrow, belief, arrow, behavior, arrow, results. And that's the order, right? So identity, then belief, then behavior, then result. Now, here's where people fuck up, right? Most people try to change their behavior first. Okay. Big no-no, okay? What most people do is they start with a new diet, a new fucking routine, a new planner, a new workout challenge, blah, blah, do fucking blah, right? And they think that if they just act differently long enough with sheer willpower, they'll magically feel different. Okay, but that is completely backwards and it doesn't work. And time after time, I see this as a coach. People join a fucking gym. They buy all the activewear. They do all of the things, right? The bigger and more complex the solution, the more profound the transformation. That's what people believe. Okay, I actually have a whole keynote speech on this. But true transformation starts at the top of the formula with identity. Okay, very important. Because when you believe something new about who you are, your brain automatically looks for evidence to prove it right. Because you're not a fucking liar. Okay? That's just actually how your neural wiring works. Now, your subconsciousness is obsessed with being consistent, right? It doesn't care whether your beliefs are empowering or fucking limiting. Okay? It'll still try to make your reality match them. Right? And you can go to seminars on this shit. And people try and get you hooked in. Oh, I've got limiting beliefs. I've got all of these things. I get that. But right, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be? That is the most important thing. So if your identity says, for example, I'm hopeless with food, if that's what your identity is, because you're so fucking hopeless with food, well, what will happen is your brain will notice every single time you grab a fucking takeaway and it will ignore every single time you make a healthy choice. That's just how it works. Now, if your identity says, I'm terrible with money, you know what you'll do? You find a way to overspend, even when you actually know better. And if your identity says, oh, you know what? I always start and never finish things. This is a classic, right? You're subconsciously going to create proof of that exact fact over and over until you decide to rewrite the story. And that's what we're doing here today, okay? We're upgrading the script. So I'm going to give you an actual example here. Okay. Old identity, right? Old identity is, you know, I always start something and never finish things, okay? How we flip the script on this is we create a new identity. And instead of saying I always start and never finish things, we say, I'm someone who keeps promises to myself. Okay? Can you actually see the difference here? The first one, I always start and never finish things. What that does is it keeps you stuck in shame. And the new one, which is I'm someone who keeps promises to myself, it actually pulls you forward into integrity. Now, here's the best part of this, right? You actually don't need to achieve it first. You just need to start acting as if it's already true, right? So if you want to be someone who moves daily, don't wait for the fucking perfect gym program or the perfect coach or to manifest some fucking gym that opens 200 meters around the corner from your house, like I have, all right? You're just going to start walking like I am. Okay, I have a treadmill under my desk. I'm literally walking as I'm talking to you, if you were wondering, because I'm sure you were wondering, okay? Okay, and if you want to be someone who eats well, okay, don't overhaul your entire diet overnight. Like, it will not work. But just make one small nourishing choice just today, right? Fucking day, not tomorrow, not fucking Friday, not again on Monday. Okay, maybe be someone who writes a book. Okay, don't wait for inspiration or a fucking writing retreat in Bali. Open a blank document and type 100 shitty words. Okay, it's all it takes. Because tiny actions, what they do is they build massive evidence. Every small, consistent action that you take is a vote for the kind of person that you are becoming. And what happens is over time, those votes actually stack up, okay? And your brain starts to believe the new narrative. And then suddenly, voila, like a fucking miracle, discipline isn't something that you have to actually force. It's just who you are. So before you chase another result, just ask yourself this. What kind of person gets results? Okay? And then start behaving like that person. One small promise, one small fucking proof point, one small step at a time, brick by brick, breath by breath, okay? And that's how you go from self-sabotage to self-trust. And that, guys, is how you go from stuck to unstoppable. All right. So it's time to stop sitting around and waiting for motivation to magically fucking manifest itself like a drunk fairy godmother, okay? Motivation is completely fickle. It's super emotional, it's fucking moody, and it's that like that unreliable friend who hypes you up on Friday night and then goes you on Saturday morning. I don't know, maybe you don't have one of those. But if you keep waiting to quote unquote feel ready, you'll actually still be sitting here in 1 year's time, maybe like you are now, a year from a year ago, and you'll be scrolling fucking inspirational quotes with the same to-do list, collecting dust again. So instead of waiting for motivation, what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to build momentum, because momentum is what actually moves the needle. And the cool thing is, right, it's completely within your control. And if you've been following me for a while, I have a thing called the Healthy Habit Hierarchy, which is a life operating system consisting of 6 M's. And the very first M is momentum. And if you don't know what that is, come check out my book. It's cheaper than therapy. Shameless plug. But here's how we do this, right? I'm going to give you a couple of steps to create momentum. And by a couple, I mean more than 2. I think there's like 5. So I'm going to get you to write this down if you've got that notepad. Step number 1 is we want to anchor it. Okay? We attach our new habit to something you already do automatically. Very important. Something that your brain actually recognizes as a solid routine. And this is what we call habit stacking, right? James Clear talks about this in his book, Atomic Habits. And it's a very sneaky way to piggyback off the neural pathways that you actually already have. So some examples of this are like, after I brush my teeth, I'll take 3 deep breaths. Or after I make my morning coffee, I'll write down one thing I'm grateful for. Or after I open my laptop, I'll stretch for 30 seconds, okay? So you're basically slipping the new behavior into your brain's existing playlist, and we don't need any willpower to do this. So very, very simple, very important first step, okay? So we've got to anchor it. Number 2, we've got to make it really, really fucking obvious, okay? We don't want to rely on our memory. We want to rely on visual cues, because your environment is actually your silent coach. Now, if you want to journal at night, if that's a habit that you want to build, put the fucking journal on your pillow before nighttime so that you have to physically move it to go to sleep. I'm not even kidding, okay? If you want to work out, put your sneakers right next to where you'll trip over them in the morning, okay? And if you want to drink more water, fill up the friggin' drink bottle, or bottles. If you're me, I fill up bottles and cups and things. That used to be full of vodka, and now it's water. I promise it's not water, special water, but like it's big, that hole is like half a liter, right? So if you want to drink more water, fill up the bottle and leave it on your desk. Do not leave it just in the fucking car or in the fridge or not somewhere. Put it deliberately somewhere where you know you're going to see it, okay? Because guys, out of sight equals out of mind. Okay, I cannot reiterate this enough. We have to make our goals impossible to ignore and so fucking obvious that we'd feel stupid. We'd literally trip over them if we didn't do it, okay? Number 3, we want to start super tiny. Now, your brain totally loves small wins, right? Because when you start way too big, it panics and it's like, oh my God, this feels unsafe. I bought a mission, okay? So we got to go micro. Now, maybe that's flossing one fucking tooth. I don't know. Maybe it's walking for 2 minutes. Maybe it's doing one single solitary push-up. Maybe it's writing one messy paragraph, okay? But the goal isn't to crush it in its entirety. It's to create proof that you actually just can. Because one tiny micro win, it leads to another tiny micro win. And that is how you build confidence and consistency, okay, i.e. momentum. Now, we've got to remember, though, the hardest part of building any habit is starting, okay? I'm not going to discredit that, right? But once you start, what happens is your brain releases a chemical. It's called dopamine. It feels really good. And it says, oh, this feels really nice. Let's do it again. Oh, yeah. Okay, so please don't underestimate the power of this tiniest possible action that you can take. So number 4 is track and celebrate, okay? Because like we're all basically dopamine-driven fucking lab rats, right? So you actually got to give your brain what it needs. So track your wins, right? Celebrate them. Make the process really fun for yourself. Gamify it, okay? So I'm giving you full-blown permission right now to use a fucking sticker chart. Okay, we're going to gamify growth. I have habit trackers that I give people, right? And they're like 66 days because they say science says about 66 days to form a habit. I mean, who knows if that's actually true? We're not just a fucking number or an app, but 66 days is a pretty significant period of time, right? And in there, what they do is you can put stickers on it or you can cross it or you can tick it or draw smiley faces. I don't give a shit what you do. But whatever it is you need to do, tick the box, cross the line, fucking light the candle, do a fucking victory dance. I don't care. Whatever gives your brain that little hell yes, okay, that's the hit that it needs. Now, when we're talking about progress, guys, it's not boring. It's actually biochemical. And when you celebrate even what seems like the smallest steps, you're actually training your brain to crave consistency instead of chaos. And then finally, number 5, have a plan B, okay? Because you know what? Fucking life's going to happen for you. You're going to get sick and the kids will lose their shoes and your boss is going to call another fucking 7 a.m. meeting on fucking Teams, okay? And that is where your bare minimum version comes in, okay? Can't do your full workout, cool. I can do 1 set. Prep the perfect meal. Okay, grab a protein shake, make a quick egg wrap. Can't meditate for 10 minutes. Okay, cool, no worries. Take 3 fucking deep breaths while you do a piss, okay? Not even kidding, right? It's not about perfection. It's about maintaining the rhythm. And if you know me, you'll know I do this all the time, always pivoting. One thing I've learned is to be agile and nimble because you're not going to get it perfect all the time. Your health is like this, and progress, not linear, convoluted as fuck, okay? But remember, it's not about perfection. It's about maintaining a rhythm, yeah? Now, consistency, it doesn't mean all or nothing. It actually means always something. Please remember that. Maybe write that down. Consistency doesn't mean all or nothing. Consistency equals always something. Now, at the end of the day, this isn't about doing more. I'm not here to make you do fucking more, right? It's about doing one thing and then doing it again. Because remember, repetition is how habits become automatic, right? And automatic is how they become effortless. And effortless is how you build a life that does not rely on motivation. It just relies on momentum. And momentum is a self-renewable energy. So today, pick one anchor, one tiny action, and one way to celebrate it. And then rinse and repeat until your brain gets a message, okay? And that message is going to be, this is who I am now. Because, guys, that's how you stop overthinking and that you start to just become. Okay? You're a human being. Now, I want to talk about the mood choice loop, right? Because this is gold. Most people sit around waiting to feel motivated. And they wait to feel motivated before they act. Like motivation is some sort of rare fucking Pokemon and you got to catch it first, okay? But it's not how it works, okay? It's not how the brain works. Because the science actually says the opposite, that action creates emotion. Okay, you heard me right. Your feelings don't rule your behavior. Your behavior actually fuels your feelings. Now, here's how the loop actually plays out, right? So your mood influences your choices. And then your choices reinforce your mood. And then round and bloody round we go, okay? And it's a sneaky little feedback loop that we're stuck in, okay? Example, you don't feel like going to the gym. You skip it. Then you feel sluggish or you feel guilty. And then you eat shit to self-soothe. And then you feel even worse, okay? And then you tell yourself, I'll start again Monday. And that is how a single skip workout turns into a full-blown spiral of shame lasagna, okay? Sound familiar? Maybe, okay? And that's the mood action loop in real time, right? Now, it's not a sign of weakness. Remember, you're not weak. You're not broken. It's literally how your neural pathways are wired. And when your brain senses discomfort, it defaults the quickest way possible to get that next dopamine hit, which usually comes in the form of Netflix snacks or avoidance, okay? But here's where the magic happens, right? Remember, you can flip the script. You can edit the script. So instead of waiting for your mood to change before you move, you make the mood, right? And then your mood follows. Because every time you take even the tiniest positive action, right, you change your brain chemistry. You trigger dopamine and serotonin, those delicious, really feel-good chemicals that make you feel accomplished and balanced and motivated to do it again. And you don't need to feel inspired to do the thing, right? You got to remember, though, you just need to start. Okay, so you don't need to wait for clarity. Remember, clarity comes from doing. You don't need to wait for motivation. Motivation comes after the movement, and you don't need to be in the right fucking headspace, okay? Because the right headspace is what shows up once you begin. Okay, so you got to stop waiting for lightning bolts of fucking inspiration. You got to stop waiting for that magical fucking Monday that never arrives, and stop negotiating with your brain about whether you actually just feel like it, okay? You don't have to feel like it. You just have to begin. So one rep, one fucking sip of water, one email, one fucking deep breath, because that's all it takes to break inertia. And once you move physically or mentally, it doesn't matter, that's when the momentum kicks in. And once momentum starts rolling, resistance, it doesn't stand a chance, guys. So next time your brain starts whispering to you, hey, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. Okay, we'll just do it in an hour. Okay, just smile and say, come on, fucking nice try, sweetheart. Okay, we're going to get it done now. Okay, do it now. Do it today. Because you don't have to wait for motivation to act. Remember, you've got to act to create motivation. And that is how you fix it and you flip the damn loop, right? That's how you train your brain to trust that movement equals safety. And once again, it's how we go from stuck to unstoppable. Now, I'm going to share something with you again, something very real. No Instagram filters, no fucking weird AI that gives me extra fingers, no motivational quotes, just truth, okay? Now, when I was really deep in grief, okay, after my husband, Brian, committed suicide, I wasn't some fucking badass beacon of motivation. Okay, I wasn't smashing goals or waking up inspired. Guys, I was barely surviving. My body was as inflamed as fuck, okay? I was in hospital all the time. My sleep, it was wrecked. My relationship with food, it was an absolute war zone. My life was literally just surviving every single battle, right? I was running on cortisol, caffeine, and that kind of autopilot you use when just getting out of bed feels like a marathon. Now, everyone around me, they all thought that I was doing fine because I was still functioning, right? Still smiling, responding to fucking text messages with I'm doing okay, smiley face emoji, still running a fucking multi-million-dollar business, still showing up, right? But inside, I was running on nothing but fumes. I felt completely broken. I felt angry and numb, and I felt all of that all at once, right? And then one day, I caught my reflection in my mirror in the room just not far from here. And I had puffy eyes, fucking crap smile. You know, my eyes were empty, really. And I actually said to myself, you know what? You can't keep doing this. Now, it wasn't dramatic, right? It wasn't a fucking movie moment. It's very quiet, very matter of fact. Okay. Now, it's like a whisper that came from somewhere far deeper than any sort of fear or pride. And so I picked one thing, okay, one small fucking stupidly simple thing to focus on. Now, I started with sleep. I assured that no matter what, didn't matter what chaos was ensuing in the back end of my life, I was just going to get my 8 hours of sleep a night. So I was sleeping like fuck shit, obviously. Some Valium, couldn't sleep, felt like shit, didn't want to eat. And then I started drinking water in the morning. Okay, that's it. One thing led to the next. That's, not a fancy fucking routine, no biohacks, just sleep and hydration. And then a few weeks later, I swapped my fucking Monte Carlo biscuit habit. And if you joined me for the last webinar, you would have heard all about that. Okay. Now, I had been completely justifying very proudly that my Monte Carlo habit was okay because it was gluten-free. Therefore, it was totally fine. Okay. But I actually swapped this addiction for a protein smoothie. Wasn't perfect, just a little bit better. And then I started walking around the block on my own, not to lose weight, not to prove anything, just to fucking move. And then I journaled 1 sentence a day, right? Okay. Sometimes it was really profound. Sometimes I would literally write, this fucking sucks. Okay. But it was honest, right? And you know what? It was something. And then slowly, quietly, things in my life started to shift. Now, I didn't rebuild my life overnight, right? I rebuilt it habit by habit, moment by moment. Tiny choices that felt too small to matter until they actually did. Now, each one of these habits, it became a brick in the foundation of the woman that is standing here on this treadmill having a conversation with you today, okay? So everything I'm teaching you, it doesn't come from a fucking textbook. Okay, some of it does, but also it's lived experience. And we're going to remember, like, healing isn't about overhauling your life in one big fucking dramatic movie moment burst of fucking willpower, right? It's about showing up when you don't feel like it and choosing the tiniest next right thing, right? And again until the fog starts to lift from your life. And if I can do it with fucking trauma and grief and neurodivergence and 3 unwelcome fucking brain tumors, okay, and anxiety and ADHD and previously with depression, and everything was fighting for fucking a front seat in my life, okay? Well, you can actually do it too. Now, you don't have to fix everything. Remember, you just have to start somewhere. Because when you build one small habit, you know what you actually build? You build hope. And hope, guys, hope is the spark that rebuilds everything. So please don't wait to feel ready. Please don't wait to feel healed. Just take one small compassionate action today and let that be the start of your comeback. Because if I can rebuild my life from rock bottom, you can absolutely rebuild yours from wherever you are right now in your life. Now, here's your mission for this week, as I always like to do at the end of these webinars. Now, this is not a fucking 47-step program. It's not an overhaul. This is not a new year fucking new me nonsense shit. What I want to do is give you a powerful, doable challenge that'll start rewiring your brain from the inside out, okay? So always do this when you catch me for these webinars, right? Because you've got to remember, knowledge without action is literally just mental clutter. And we do not do clutter here, okay? What do? Momentum with a big capital M. Okay. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a plan. There's a few steps here. 4 steps normally. All right, so I want you to write this down. Choose one new identity that you're going to step into. Not fucking 10, not 5, 1. Okay? Choose one new identity you're stepping into. And I want you to ask yourself a question here. You can write this down too. Who do I want to start showing up as? Okay? So your question is, who do I want to start showing up as? Okay, so maybe it's, I'm someone who follows through. Maybe it's, I'm someone who respects their boundaries. Maybe it's, I'm someone who nourishes their body. Maybe for you, it's, I'm someone who does what they say they'll do. Okay? And so this step, it's not about faking it, it's about claiming it, right? When you declare it out loud, you actually start telling your brain, okay, this is who we are now, right? And your subconscious loves a label. So actually give it one worth living up to. That's step one. Step two in your challenge. Pick one tiny habit that proves it. Okay? Now, this is where we build evidence for that new identity, okay? Now, if your new identity is, I'm someone who follows through, well, maybe your proof might be, I'll make my bed every morning. Maybe it's fucking not, okay? Okay? If it's someone who nourishes their body, maybe it's, I'll add 1 serve of veggies to my dinner. Okay? Maybe for you, if it's, I'm someone who prioritizes movement, maybe what you'll do is start with, I'll walk for 5 minutes after lunch. Okay? So we want to pick the tiny habit that proves who we are. Does not have to be big or fancy. It just has to be doable, because every single time you do it, remember, you are casting a vote for the person you're becoming. Hope that makes sense. Step 3, do it, and do it daily, and do it daily for 7 days. Okay? So do it daily for 7 days is step 3. No excuses though. Not fucking, I'll start Monday. Stop saying that shit. You are literally starting now. Good thing for you today, if you're watching this right now in real time, today is Monday. Lucky you. Maybe you're watching this from the future. So work it out. Do the maths, okay? But 7 days of consistency, sure, might not change your life, but it will definitely change your proof. And remember, proof is what your brain needs to start trusting that this version of you is actually real. It's not synthetic, okay? So treat it like an experiment, right? Be curious, not critical. And if you miss a day, don't fucking spiral. Just start again. Because remember, the power isn't in perfection, it's in repetition. Remember. Step 4, okay? Final step here, guys. We want to track it. Brag about it. Build the evidence, okay? Yeah, you heard me, brag. Fucking brag. Okay, we've been conditioned to downplay our wins. But you know what, guys? That ends here, okay? Celebrate the fuck out of every single time you put a tick on that fucking chart or a freaking sticker on there, okay? Whatever. Every time you follow through, you are literally rewiring your brain's reward center. So track it however you like, okay? Maybe it's a sticker chart. Maybe it's a notes app. Maybe it's an app that you use with me, like my PT Hub. Hey, maybe it's lipstick on your mirror. I have a friend that does that. Okay, whatever it is, you've got to make it visible, because what you track, you strengthen, yeah? And what you celebrate, you repeat. All right? So we're going to review those steps. Step 1, choose a new identity you're stepping into. Just one. Step 2, pick one habit that proves it. Step 3, do it daily for a week. And step 4, track it, tell people about it, and build the evidence. All right? Because by the end of the week, right, you won't just have a streak, you'll actually have proof. And you'll have proof that you're becoming the kind of person who does what they say they'll do. You'll have proof that small steps create real shifts. And you'll have proof that the power's been in you all along. And we just needed to get your brain on board. Okay, that's it. One identity, one habit, 7 days, okay? Now, you're not just building consistency, guys. You are building character. You're showing your nervous system that change is safe. You're teaching your inner critic that they're not the boss anymore. And more importantly, you are showing yourself that you can trust you again. And that, lovely people, is how you unfuck your head, okay? One tiny, brave, messy, magnificent action at a time. I hope you followed along. Now, if what I've shared today hit you in the right fucking feels, right? If you're nodding so hard that your neck's going to get a workout and you need to have some acupuncture, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, then take this as your sign, okay? Okay, if you're done trying to do it all alone, if you are fucking ready to stop overthinking and self-sabotaging and start again Monday, if you're crazing a crew who get it, right? Who's rewiring their brains and breaking their handbrake habits and building better lives without the bullshit, well, maybe it's time to come home to the Mojo Dojo. Now, this is where the real transformation actually happens, where science meets sass and self-sabotage. It absolutely doesn't stand a chance, right? And inside the Mojo Dojo, you get full access to everything I've ever created to help you go from stuck to unstoppable and stay there, right? So inside the Mojo Dojo, you get one, all of my courses, a complete collection of all of my life upgrades from food freedom to fucking focus on full-on badassery. Number two, you get the library of laws. And it's a treasure chest of guides and templates and resources that'll make your brain do a really nice happy dance like Ellen. Number three, you get monthly masterclasses. So like this, but really deep dives into health and habits and mindset and momentum to keep your growth on track. Number four, you get monthly lost and found sessions, right? They're my not so tame fucking Q&A sessions where we talk real life and real habits and real messy middle. They're like TED Talks, but with swearing. And then we get number five, monthly challenges, which are practical and punchy missions that'll help you smash those handbrake habits one cheeky week at a time. And the Mojo Dojo, it isn't just a membership, it's actually a home base, and it's your accountability crew and your Rewire HQ, basically. And it's a place where when your brain's being dramatic and you need to go borrow a bit of Loz energy to keep you going, it's where you can find it, okay? But what it's not, we don't have hustle porn, we don't do toxic positivity, okay? It's just grounded growth, really good humans, and the occasionally inappropriate laugh, right? I open up all the gates. I want to be the anti-gatekeeper, right? And banish all the wellness wankery from your life. And no, right? This is not a hard sell to you guys, okay? If you've already felt the shift today, that's awesome, okay? And, you know, that spark that's been in your chest, that holy shit, this actually makes sense moment, okay, maybe that's your sign. Because you got to remember, guys, you're not broken. You're not lazy. And you're definitely not too much like I was told most of my life, even by my own dad. You're just fucking too powerful to keep playing small. So if you want to jump in, we can do this together. We've unfucked your head. Let's build your habits. Let's get some shit done and let's go. And I just want to thank you so much for spending some time with me today. But now it's your time to go out there and do one small thing and prove to yourself that you've actually got this, because remember, guys, you actually do. Thank you so much for joining me. We've wrapped up in just under an hour. I hope that you've had a great time and you've learned some stuff. And please send me a DM if you've enjoyed this. Give me some feedback. I love to hear feedback. And in 2 months' time, we have another free webinar just like this. And I hope that you can make it. I will be doing it just like this on Zoom. If you've got any friends that you think might benefit from something like what you've just sat through today, please share those links with them. And you will get a follow-up email from this if you did register. So thank you so much. Enjoy the balance of your week. I will let you get on with your lives. And ciao for now. Peace.